From the incredible clash of the African titans, the buffalo, and the rhino, to the breathtaking brawl between two silverback gorillas at the Omaha Zoo, here are the 10 most extreme animal fights. Let's get started. The polar bear is one of the largest and most powerful land carnivores, and in the Arctic Circle, it is the ultimate predator. With a size that can easily reach 3 meters for a weight of up to 1 ton, we quickly understand why it is the true king of the ice pack. But it must be said that sometimes, even the strongest of polar bears can find himself facing an opponent who will give him a hard time. Look for example at this bear who decided to get a little too close to a house on Hopen Island in Norway, attracted no doubt by the smell of its inhabitants cooking. No doubt believing he was having a good time without too much work. The polar bear was disappointed when he came face to face with a good old-fashioned sled dog, and in spite of its imposing size and its heavy muscular legs, the polar plantigrade could not do anything to avoid being bitten in the mouth by the faithful husky. Stunned by the speed of the attack and the pain of the bite, the hungry bear had to make a strategic retreat, at the risk of being humiliated by the brave canine, especially since the latter was tied up. The Galapagos marine iguana is a saurian that does not fear predators, because of its very tough skin and the many horned spines that dot its back and head. Its size, which can exceed 1.70 meters, also confers additional protection in the hostile environment of these virgin and wild islands of the Pacific. But if the adult iguana is almost totally invincible, it is quite different for the poor little reptiles that have just emerged from their eggs. Measuring only a few centimeters and lacking horned shells, these baby iguanas are totally at the mercy of the many predators that litter the beaches of the Galapagos Islands. The juveniles which have just hatched must indeed follow a real obstacle course to try to make their way to salvation, avoiding being snatched by birds or worse, by Pseudolcyphus bicerealis, the terrible snakes of the Galapagos. The latter swarm on the beaches of these virgin islands, greedily watching for the hatching of iguana eggs which they love. Fortunately, the little iguanas are very fast and very lively at birth, which allows them most of the time to quickly take off and lose their pursuers. This young iguana in the video will have the opportunity to grow up and start a family of his own, thus perpetuating the sacred cycle of life. You certainly know the famous Clash of the Titans? Then here is its African version, which comes straight from the sun-drenched plains of the savannah. It is an epic duel between two of the largest and most dangerous animals in Africa, the great African buffalo and the white rhino. As you can see on these terrible pictures, the fight is not very balanced in terms of weight, the scale tilting rather on the side of the huge rhino. Indeed, with its 4 meters long and its mass of 3 tons, the white rhinoceros exceeds by far its adversary, which does not weigh more than 1 ton. Moreover, the rhino's skin is as hard and resistant as Kevlar, which gives it a certain protection against the horns of the buffalo, which do not worry it more than a rose thorn. On the other hand, the buffalo could not resist the enormous nasal horn of the rhino, which pierced his body several times, mortally wounding him. As you can see, the buffalo is badly beaten, and in spite of the reinforcement of its fellow creatures, the poor ruminant does not escape its fatal fate. What do you think is the most pugnacious and fierce animal in the African savanna? Could it be the lion, the unchanging and indomitable king of animals? Or perhaps it is the leopard, the fearsome hunter who never misses? Well, it's neither one nor the other, because the most ferocious of the animals of the savanna and the most belligerent of them all is the rattle, this little badger that seems totally harmless. This sequence recorded by tourists during a safari proves how tenacious the rattle can be, even against opponents much bigger and more dangerous than him. The completely surreal scene shows us first of all the fierce fight between a rattle and a very big python, since we discover them embraced in an embrace of death from the first seconds of this video. This fight for life and death is then interrupted by a curious jackal, who saw in the fight the opportunity to fill his belly at a lower cost. The canine will therefore try to interfere with what does not concern him and will start to snoop around with his snout. The jackal doesn't know how aggressive the rattles are when it comes to defending their prey. The pugnacious little mammal had to fight on 2 fronts, on the one hand, the python who really didn't want to let it go, and on the other hand, the hungry jackal, who was soon joined by one of his companions. Finally, the rattle will deliver the coup de grace to the dangerous python, then will quietly drag its carcass back to its lair, while repeatedly scaring away the 2 jackals. And in spite of some small boastful tales, these last ones did not really dare to retaliate, undoubtedly fearing a bite of this terrible animal. The little badger that everyone laughs at has just proved once again that he is the most badass of all animals on the savannah. If you thought your pet cat was a little wild around the edges, and that you would never be able to completely tame it, you haven't seen anything yet. Here is a sand cat, or desert cat if you prefer, and we can tell you that it is really the shyest of the cats. This wild cat lives essentially in the most deserted places of the planet and thus had to develop an extremely developed survival instinct. Indeed, food is so scarce in the desert that he does not hesitate to hunt literally deadly prey, such as this dangerous horned viper, which is one of the most poisonous in the world. But as you can see, it takes a lot more to scare our big kitty, who is not at all impressed by the viper. With its heavy muscular legs and razor-sharp claws, the powerful little desert cat stuns the viper, causing fatal injuries. And as you can see, when she tries to bite him with her fangs full of venom, the cat dodges her attacks with a disconcerting agility and flexibility. And after the effort, the comfort, because once the coup de grace carried to the snake, the tomcat will be able to feast on its flesh. You will understand why you will never be able to tame such an animal, because it is not with cat food that you will tame it. The maternal instinct in wild animals is certainly not something to be taken lightly, as a mother will often do anything to save her children. Like this mother bear, who valiantly defends her offspring against a Bengal tiger weighing more than 200 kilograms. This scene, recorded in the Tadoba National Park in India, shows us the fierce fight of a mother protecting her cub against the attack of the powerful hungry cat. Although she is only half his weight, the mother bear does not hesitate to charge the tiger, again and again, until it pushes him towards a pool of water where he will take refuge, completely out of breath and exhausted by this hard battle. Because even with its powerful musculature and its terrible fangs, the tiger was literally subjugated by the furious fury of the mother bear. Knowing that he might well leave some feathers, or rather a few tufts of hair in this confrontation that was obviously not to his advantage, the tiger preferred to abandon the fight. MMA has become such a popular sport that even wild animals have started to practice it. Don't believe us? Then take a look at this sequence, which comes straight from the gorilla enclosure of the Omaha Zoo, in the United States. There is no octagon in this video, but you can still see two proud fighters ready to fight. After a few King Kong-style chest beats, the two silverback gorillas will come to blows, offering zoo visitors a real show worthy of the UFC. Because in spite of their imposing musculature, the two enormous primates remain very agile and fast, and their technique of aerial combat is at least spectacular. And revealing their talents in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, the two gorillas try to bring the fight to the ground, one even trying to tackle the other by grabbing his feet. This is one of the fiercest and most ruthless fights you will ever see in the animal kingdom. This epic sequence, captured in a Finnish forest, shows us the wild duel of two adult brown bears, who will fight until the end for their territories. The confrontation between the two plantigrades begins with threatening growls and head nods, before they finally come to blows. These two balls of muscle and fur will then engage in a fierce battle, using all the strength of their heavy paws with sharp claws, easily capable of ripping open a truck. The ferocity of the fight is palpable, but the opponents are evenly matched, and both are extremely motivated to win. Finally realizing that this match could go on forever because of their strength and endurance, the two bears decide to break it up and go their separate ways. Lions do not usually attack the larger mammals of the savanna, such as hippos, rhinos or elephants. Their developed survival instinct encourages them to hunt easier prey, and especially much less dangerous. But it seems that these four intrepid lionesses don't know this rule, or that they are simply so hungry that they forget the danger. The quartet of female hunters from the savannah have indeed targeted a large hippopotamus of more than 4 tons, which has strayed a little too far from its waterhole. It must be said that 4,000 kilograms of fresh meat is too much temptation for these lions, especially in this period of dearth. On the other hand, attacking an animal that has tusks of more than 60 centimeters and a wide mouth that can open up to 180 degrees, is not necessarily a very good idea. And indeed, despite all the strength and coordination of the 4 lions, the hippo managed to escape with only a few scratches. And that's it for today. Which of these 10 fierce animal fights impressed you the most? Tell us in the comments. And if you liked this video, don't forget to put a like and subscribe and activate the notifications to find soon new uncommon discoveries.